All right. Well, everybody, welcome to the show. Todd, Scott, I'm excited to get things rolling here. I'm going to give the screen over to Scott and let him present. And then we will have, we'll chime in from time to time. And then Todd will, chat a little bit with us at the end.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Mitch. Hey, welcome everybody. By the way, thank you for being here. I know there's about 150 places that you could be right now. And after the last couple of years, we're all kind of zoomed out. But I think these kind of trainings are super important. So first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. The second thing that I would say, and I'll tell you why you should listen to me in a minute. The second thing I always tell people is like, just be present, right? Like we're going to send out this recording. If you really got an appraisal dispute that you have to work on right now, go do that thing, because loan officers especially, we're really good at convincing ourselves we can multitask, but nobody can multitask. Multitasking is defined as doing two things shitty at the same time. Like we have a right side of our brain and a left side of our brain. And if you're really, really superior, you can switch back and forth between the left and right side of your brain, the creative and the analytical, about once every 7 seconds, 5 seconds. If you're like kind of slow like me, maybe it's every 8 to 10 seconds. So it gives us the appearance that we can multitask, but we can't multitask. And if you want to know why this is true, or if you want to know how this is true, I will ask you, this is going to be an interactive webinar. So in the chat box, please, how many of you, when you call somebody, you can tell that they are doing something else? Right now in the chat box, yes or no. You can tell when you get on the phone with a client or your mom or tech support or something, and they're doing something else. They're trying to finish an email. They're distracted by the kids that are coming in to bring them an iced tea. You can absolutely tell when you're on the phone with somebody that they are doing something else and they're not totally present to the phone call, right? So in the chat box, I'd love to hear from all 26 of you. Yeah, they don't answer correctly, right? Libra said, yeah, of course I can tell when they're doing that. Well, the same thing with us, right? We're not special. We can't multitask. So be here, be present, just be in the moment and learn something. And if you can't, that's cool. Like go away and then watch the recording at a time when you can like sit down and learn. Number two, we all have on our desks journals like this where we've taken notes, right? I call it shelf help. We take a bunch of notes, we attend a bunch of training calls, and then we actually never do anything with it, right? Some of you have probably been on previous HomeIQ training calls where you got some amazing ideas, some amazing tactics, tips, strategies. I know Amir, I know Bill Hart. I used to coach with him personally. There's so many great people are coming on to the HomeIQ platform to invest in you guys and give you guys value. And a lot of us, myself included at times, take notes and then we don't take any action, right? And so here's just a little, again, tip that I use. Anytime I go to a live event, I jump on a webinar. I mean, if I'm being honest, I do this with my wife. We just take a piece of paper, we put, 2 lines down the middle to make 3 columns, and we just think about, okay, what do we want to start doing? What do we want to stop doing? And what do we want to keep doing? And this is just like a coaching tip for anything. You're going to a live event, right? You're going to an office meeting. You're sitting down and you're doing a mastermind roundtable, right? You're jumping on a training like this. Just pull out a piece of paper. I like 8.5 by 14, like one of those big yellow pads. Draw 2 lines down the middle. And as you hear notes, as you're refreshed on things, as you're thinking about, oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's a takeaway. That's not really for me. Oh yeah, I want to delete that from my process. Oh, I want to stop spending money on that because now HomeIQ is covering that for me. You want to think about the things that you want to stop doing, right? Like the statue of David, right? Arguably considered the greatest statue ever created. It wasn't built, it was taken away from, right? It was one giant piece of marble that they just chiseled away until they got to perfection. A lot of times in our business, yeah, we need to start things. We need to get back to writing thank you letters. We got to get back to hosting lunch and learns. But a lot of times the big impact that you can have in your career is like, hey, what are you going to stop doing? What are you going to stop screwing around with? And then after you beat yourself up for all the things you should be doing and you shouldn't be doing, it's important to remind yourself of like, all right, what are the good things that I'm doing right now that got me here, right? So what am I going to keep doing? Like for me, if I was evaluating my life, it's like, hey, I'm going to start adding a weightlifting routine into my workouts because I want to get stronger. And I know the older I get, the only thing that keeps the fat off is lifting weights. What do I want to stop doing? I want to stop sneaking away at 3 p.m. because I get sick of working in my home office and grabbing a Del Taco Macho burrito and a Dr. Pepper, which is kind of like 2,000 wasted calories a day. And what do I want to keep doing? I want to keep my flow of like going to jiu-jitsu every morning at 6 a.m., right? So you could do this for your health, your business, your life, your relationships, what you're doing with HomeIQ, what you're doing in your loan operating system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just a really great tool. And a lot of people kind of use that as a foundational piece for where they are going to be like managing their business, right? So right now, just whether it's a little tiny Post-it or a big 8.5 by 14, I would recommend not doing it online, because if you try to type this stuff out, you'll get distracted. You'll see an email. There we go. Mitch is already on top of it, man. Just draw 2 lines down the center of that thing. Stop, start, keep. These are your 3 columns, right? So anyway, I've been ranting for 5 minutes, and you might not have any idea why you should be listening to me. So my name is Scott Groves. I've been a loan officer for 24 years. About 9 years ago, I started that company, Consolidated Coaching. And then I invested in this tech company down here that you might know. And then I invested in that CRM over there, you know. And what's interesting about me as a coach is I am still actively writing loans every day. Now, instead of the $100 million that I was doing about 10 years ago, it's going to be about closer to 30 or 40 this year, because I love my coaching clients more than I love my mortgage clients. Sorry, that's just where I'm at in my life. And I've also got these other companies that I've invested in and pouring into. So I am no longer the big producing $100 million guy that can brag about that. But over the course of the last 24 years, have funded north of $1 billion in loans. Have this coaching company where I currently, even in this market, have about 120 coaching clients that pay outside of the company where I work. And then I'm also the inside coach for the mortgage company where I am domiciled, which is Synergy One Mortgage Bank. So this is kind of what I do. I talk all day, every day to loan officers, and then I sneak over here and I do my loan officer work. And thank God for my awesome partner, Leah, who makes so much of that possible. But I know where you're at, right? I know that every dollar you're spending right now in the mortgage business has to be accounted for. Some of you are probably on this training because you're like, I have got to get the most out of anything that I'm paying for right now in the business, right? And I'm no different. It's really depressing to go from $100,000 a month paychecks to like, ooh, we had a month for the first time in 15 years where we boloed and we had 0 loans fund. Now they rolled over to the next month and we had an okay, 60 days. But trust me, it's depressing. Your wife starts looking at you sideways when she's like, hey, we used to be getting these $100,000 a month paychecks, and you're telling me this month's paycheck was exactly 0. I get it, right? And so I, just like you, am evaluating every single dollar that I spend. And the reason why I still use HomeIQ, I'm still a paying customer of HomeIQ, why I invested in HomeIQ, because I really do believe it's the best tool in the industry to solve the problem of staying in touch with past clients, right? HomeIQ is the best tool in the industry that solves the problem of staying in touch with past clients. And whether it's loan officers or realtors or title reps or escrow or whatever, everybody in the mortgage and real estate space has a recency bias, right? Meaning we want to work on the leads that we have in our pipeline right now, right? We want to work on closing deals. Interactive part of the coaching, there's 30 of you on. Be honest, yes or no? How many of you close the transaction, breathe this sigh of relief, and that complete client relationship just brain dumps out your left ear? Like, be honest. How many of you, maybe prior to working with HomeIQ, you like close the transaction, and 3 days later, if I brought up the client's name, you probably wouldn't even remember them because it's such a short, intense relationship? Yeah, Chris, thanks for the honesty, man, before it's even funded. Because that's our business. We're like, whoo, we got there, right? We solved the problem that they traded in their old car and bought a new car 3 days before closing, and we had to scramble, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, thank you for the 3 of you that are being honest. The other 28 of you are not being present or don't know how to type yet. So in the chat box, are you the same way? Like, do you kind of brain dump that stuff afterwards? Let me ask you this question, yes or no. Are you the kind of loan officer who has been sane for 5 years, 2 years, a decade? I'm going to do annual mortgage reviews. I read Todd Duncan's High Trust Selling when I first got into the business 15 years ago, and I am going to become the loan officer who does annual mortgage reviews. And you've never done an annual mortgage review. Be honest. I'd love to hear from you, because I can tell you that's been my deficiency. My deficiency as a loan officer for 25 years has been the problem that HomeIQ solves, right? Doing post-closing follow-up and following up with individuals over a longer time horizon when they're pre-approved. I used to tell realtors, very honestly, because I cut my teeth in LA. I now live in Las Vegas. But in LA, it's like, it's been very common for the last 15 years that you meet a client, they're not going under contract for a year. The market has been that tight for 15 years, the inventory. And so I would tell people, I would say, hey, if you get a client and they get approved today and they, are out shopping this Friday, I'm world class. If your guys kind of kicking the tires and they want to get pre-approved, and then 6 months later they might start making offers, I'm not yet world class at following up with those people. And by the way, after a deal closes, I'm not world class at following up with them either, right? So I invested my own money in 2 companies that solve those problems. And I believe that HomeIQ solves the problem of staying in touch with past clients. That's the first problem I think it solves. The second problem I think it solves is it gives us something to call our realtors about. We're going to go into all of this. And so every single week, still even 25 years into this, with 5,000 people in my database, I still fill out a connection tracker every single week. It's painful. I hate it. It's embarrassing that we all chose a profession that no matter how many deals we close for a client, no matter how many times we save the day, no matter whether or not I have the realtor to my wedding or not, we still have to call them and stay in front of them, because if we are not top of mind, we are out of mind. Like, I will tell you, Keely Myers, you can look her up. She's a realtor in Los Angeles, California. Her mom is Tracy King. It took me, I think, 15 times meeting Tracy King before Tracy said, "Hi, I'm Tracy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know Tracy. I'm Scott Groves. We've met 9 times. I've been to 8 of your open houses." "Oh yeah, that's right. That's right." On the 15th time I walked in, she finally said, "Hey Scott, how you doing?" Right? And then I made a good relationship with her. I made a good relationship with her daughter. I closed over the course of a couple of years. They were on fire. I was on fire. Over 2 years, I probably closed 25 deals for them, right? When I got engaged to my wife, my beautiful wife back there, Keely walked up the mountain in Sierra Madre 2 hours ahead of us, starting at 4 a.m. in the morning, so she could be up there with cameras and champagne and everything. So when my wife got there at sunrise and I proposed to her, they were there to take pictures. This is how close I am with her. I took her for granted and stopped calling her for a couple months. She started working with another loan officer. I'm just now, like 5-6 years later, repairing that relationship and getting back in her good graces, because we have to find a way to stay in touch with past clients, which gives us a way to call our realtors that we've done business with in the past, which gives us something to talk about to stay top of mind. And we'll give you this. I'll actually drop it in the chat box. This is our connection tracker, which you can use in conjunction. Please don't do it now. Please don't do it now. But just click this link that I'm about to put in the chat box. Hide that browser wherever this shows up, and then you can just download this later. There's like a video of me explaining. I don't want to waste our valuable HomeIQ training time to go into what all of these boxes mean and what this all does. But here's one highlight that I will give you, right? And just, again, click this link in the chat box, minimize the screen where that popped up, because I don't want you to be distracted on going through our whole funnel and watching my video training on the connection tracker. But you can download this later. And I'll just tell you, in this box, Keely, right? Keely goes in this little box. And then when I call her, did I talk to her live? Did I text her? Did I voice message her? Or did I follow up with social media? And then you'll notice, kind of in a separate color, front and center, there is AFR, AFR. And that stands for ask for the referral, ask for the referral. And I would say AFR is the biggest game changer we've had in our coaching, where a lot of you, actually, let me just ask you this. How many of you are in the friend zone with realtors that you have spent a lot of time with? In the chat box, there's 32 of you. Just be yes or no. Just be honest. How many of you are in the friend zone with a bunch of realtors who you've invited to happy hours? You see them. Maybe their kids play on the same softball team as yours, right? And you see them like every single week, right? Or maybe if you're like me, you see this one realtor, Grayson's dad, every single day at jujitsu because our kids do jujitsu together. And a lot of us get in this friend zone, right? Of like, oh, we're staying in touch. I like you. I see you at the board of realtor meetings. You've come to my lunch and learns a couple times. Maybe we've even gone out and had a drink or a cigar, and we're not moving them into a referral stage by AFR, asking for the referral. So here's what's beautiful. And I'll just give you some scripting, right? Everybody asks, what's the script? What's the script? And by the way, if you've never read this book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, you absolutely positively must download this, write it down on your stop, start, keep sheet that you're working on right now. You are going to start reading the Chris Voss book, Never Split the Difference, right? Because a lot of what I'm about to say comes directly from this. So here's the script. Here's the script. I'll go with Keely. Hey, Keely, it's Scott. Did I catch you at a bad time? That's it. That's the whole script. And then you just be a freaking human, right? Conversations do not happen in a vacuum. I can't coach you to say, okay, I'm going to call Keely and she's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then she's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this. And then there's this Jedi mind trick to get her to use me and send me business. No, it's going to go something like this. And this is why HomeIQ is so powerful. The script can go something like this. Hey, Keely, it's Scott. Did I catch you at a bad time? No, Scott, what's up? Hey, I just want to let you know, I just talked to Frankie D. That's a real client that we have together. He was kind of poking around my HomeIQ system, and he keeps asking every month, is it a good time to sell? What is my property value really worth? We have this little analytics that I don't want to bore you with, Keely, called the pre-mover score. It says there's like an 80% chance that this guy's going to move in the next 6 to 12 months. You might want to call Frankie D and check in on him and see what's going on, because I think there's a listing coming up there, or there's something going on in his life that we've identified algorithmically. I think that's a word, algorithmically. I think that's a word. We'll make it up if not. That says that he's going to do a real estate transaction. The realtor is going to say, they might not say this out loud. They might not even realize this consciously, but subconsciously, they're going to be saying, holy cow, Scott closed that deal like 7 years ago, and he's staying in touch with the client, and he's got the finger on the pulse of what's going on with that client, and he's tipping me off to maybe getting a listing. These are the things that our realtors are going to be saying subconsciously when we use HomeIQ, right? When we do our calls with HomeIQ, when we do updates and we stay in touch with our people with purpose. I don't want to call Keely every Monday and be like, so Keely, did you work or did you play this weekend? Right. I remember there's some coaching program out there where they're like, send your clients on Halloween a snow globe and say, I wish we were working together, and then call them on Monday and ask for their business. And I wanted to put a gun in my head. I'm like, there is a 0% chance I am buying little witch bobblehead snow globes, finding a way to mail those to a bunch of realtors, and then calling them, did you get my snow globe? I wish we were working together. This is a real thing that's from a real coaching program out there that all of you guys would know. And I'm just like, no, I can't do that. I refuse to be that guy. But what I can do is I can have value add updates like what HomeIQ provides us. Then I put Keely on the list here, right? I ask for the referral. I go down, I put Frank down here on the list to call Frank and say, like, Frank, man, it's been 5 years. Damn, am I horrible at keeping in touch? Real bad. I haven't called you in 5 years, but I've been sending you this HomeIQ report for a couple of years. I see you were poking around. What's going on with your house? Now, they may say, hey, I'm ready to move. I don't know if I'm working with Keely or not. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's just have a conversation. Or they might say, dude, I've been on strike with the writer's strike here, with the actor's strike, and I'm bored. I'm just like poking around my house. Or maybe they're going to say, hey, I've been on the writer's strike. This is a real story that happened. Somebody was poking around what was going on with their property value, and if the property values were correct. Called them, hadn't talked to them in years. And they're like, oh, Scott, man, you called at the perfect time, right? Los Angeles shut down for effectively a year and a half due to COVID. was finally getting back on my feet. And then we had the writer's strike and the actor's strike for 8 months. Scott, I haven't made real money in 3 years. My only asset is, thank God I bought this house 10 years ago when property values were really low. I'm drowning in 200 grand of debt that's just accumulated over 3 years and not making any money. It's like, cool. Do you have any late payments? Has your credit score gone to hell? No, I'm stealing from Peter to pay Paul. I'm finding a way to make it work. Cool, man. Let's look at a refinance or a second mortgage. I think we ended up doing a full refinance for him because he had a low mortgage balance. This happened about 6 months ago. But these are the kind of conversations you can have, right? Then again, call Keely. Hey, Keely, Scott, did I catch you at a bad time? She says, no, Scott, what's up? Hey, just want to let you know, I don't know if you remember this past client that bought out in Sherman Oaks, Frankie D, but he was poking around this thing I have called HomeIQ. I called him, We're helping him get back on his feet financially. You know, he's going to be hitting work aggressively and getting back to work and talking to all of the other people in Hollywood who basically didn't work for 2 years because he's a lighting guy and they kind of go around set and they talk to everybody and then they stand around for 10 hours and shoot the shit while the scenes are actually being filmed. You should keep in touch with him because even though he's not going to be ready to buy or sell anytime soon, he's just recovering financially. He talks to a lot of people in Hollywood who might be buying or selling. Cool. Possible referral for Keely, right? And this is kind of like the positive momentum of what you can get. So I'm going to go into my Real Home IQ, which when we send out the video recording of this training, we're going to blur out the actual people and names because every time I go into like a training environment, it's just never quite the same. So I just prefer to use my Home IQ. So when I log into Home IQ, depending on what tab you were on last, I think that's where it default opens to. So I was like checking out the training if this was all up. So here's what you want to do. This is the first thing that I do every morning. I go into homeowners. And by the way, if you're watching this training post May of 2024, some of this might look different because we've got some amazing new features coming to Home IQ. By the way, I don't think most of you have it turned on, but I'm going to show you something in the agent's training environment. Just out of curiosity, in the chat box, I'd love to hear from all 36 of you. Do you or do you not have the agent analytics turned on in your portal yet? I know I get things about 60 days in advance so that I can start kind of beta testing it. Okay, some of you have it turned on, some of you do not. You have it turned on, I do not. Okay, cool. So we'll look into that in just a bit. So what I do here on Monday is I roll in, I look at my reports, right? And then I just go here to pre-mover score. And I don't know why it would default to lowest first, but you have to click it twice. And there's a lot of data in here, so it takes a little bit. And look, the pre-mover score. Now, for those of you that have just been paying for Home IQ because somebody told you to, and it's a great tool and the reports go out and that's enough for you, awesome. Good for you. At least you're doing something to keep in touch with past clients digitally. So for those people that have just like turned it on and never done anything else, you might not even know what the pre-mover score is, right? Pre-mover score, and Sean and Todd and Alec and all those guys, they won't share with me the super secret analytic because that's their corporate secrets that make Home IQ great. But I know a few components that go into that pre-mover score is like how long they've owned the house, right? There, you can look these up. You can look up these demographics where, like, I know the average Californian stays in their house about 7 years. They keep their mortgage for about 5.5 years. Now that number is going to start going up because so many people locked in amazing interest rates in 2021 and 2022 and 2020. But for my entire career, these demographic shifts have kind of showed Los Angelinos and now where I'm at in Las Vegas, very transient communities. I get it. We stay in the house about 7 years and we keep our loan for about 5 years, right? And so with Home IQ, they know how long they've been in the house. What's their equity position, right? What are some other public data points that they can pull, right? And if you haven't signed on to Home IQ yet, or if you're on this webinar because you're kind of checking us out, you know, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see all of your past clients, and you're going to see effectively what's their pre-mover score. And then if I want to go into here and view a report, so let's just take, well, let me do this actually first. Let me move this. Let me go to a client who I can actually pronounce because
Scott, I have something
Sure.
that kind of help with the predictive analytics and
Sure.
to help to kind of determine if you want, because you just touched on it. I don't want to interrupt your flow, but you just mentioned it right now. So pull up your profile.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And you can just click on one of these customers.
Cool.
And there's one guy that I want you to click on. So you see, let's see the hospitality one, the LLC, and it says 96%. Okay. So home value 462, therefore first time buyer price point, right?
Yep.
Now in the upper corner, those 3 dots next to report, if you click on that, click on the edit property details, edit property info, that one, January 2022, 155,000, right? So this is right before the rate increase and their equity position. What was their down payment? So they refinanced not that long ago. Is that what this is currently saying? The loan balance is showing above what that list price was, right?
Correct.
So the lower, like when the market, when you said it too, like the market, like the 7-year cycle, the market, if you were to go off of that as just a person with no data behind it, and you were just to call people every 7 years, you would miss out on tons of opportunity. Same thing with that loan situation. The down payment that somebody puts down creates a time frame that most people do not acknowledge. And that's what the algorithm is acknowledging. The higher the down payment, that house was more of a choice. If you had a first-time buyer that put down 3%, lived in that house for 4 years, built up $180,000, $200,000 in equity, saw a house, sold their home, and disrupted their entire life just to get into this home, that second house was a choice. The first house is what they could afford. That reduces everything. So when you have the length of time, the equity growth, the down payment, and the original purchase price is putting an individual into a category, then the algorithm compares that person to all other people that have sold. So when you see 96%, do yourself a favor and call that person. They should hear from you because statistically, they're extremely likely to sell, and they match up to 96% of the data points of all the people that have sold in the last year in that environment. So as a way for you guys to like dive in and you have data in front of you, look at their starting point, look at their down payment, make the determine, was this what they wanted or what they could afford? If it's what they could afford, can they purchase something better is your next question. If they can, that person needs to hear from you. And if that predictive analytics on that client is 41%, but it's still showing that, we're 72% accurate. Therefore, 28% of the time we are wrong. But if somebody's in a position to buy something better, they've been looking at the report, there's no negative on having a conversation with that customer. Talk to them about their equity position, congratulate them. Say, hey, I see that you've been looking at the report. Congratulations on your equity growth. I wanted to talk to you about that home value. That home value is dictating that net equity, which is your down payment, which is your purchase power. Have you done any home improvements? You have. Well, let's adjust that. And if you can adjust somebody's home value here, and it's going to draw them in because you can make it more accurate and possibly above Zillow, you're going to draw these people in. That's more top of mind. That's more activity. That's more engagement opportunities for you. So the predictive analytics for you guys, if you focus on the down payment and the equity growth, that those two things are interconnected, and that should probably help you understand those a little bit more. Sorry to interrupt. You were on it, and I figured it was a good time to mention it.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on something here, Todd, because this is one of the points of, I would say excuses, but I'll give the term analysis paralysis. This is somewhere where you as a loan officer is going to trick yourself into not making the calls, or you're going to get this rebuttal from a real estate agent or whatnot. So for example, Curtis Mead, this guy who lives out in Palm Springs, he's like a 96% chance to sell in the next 12 months, right? He's got a good net equity position. Home value has risen rapidly in the last 5 years since he bought the house. Now, I'll be honest, I called Curtis Mead. I have it in my notes. I have it in my CRM. I cannot recall whether or not he's getting ready to sell or if we just had a nice conversation about the equity in his house. But you loan officers, me in the past, you now, and many realtors will be like, well, what if the values are wrong? What if I call him and I'm like, hey, it looks like you might be interested in like having a conversation of moving or moving. And they're like, no, I have no interest in moving. Well, what if that happens? Who gives a shit? You made a connection. I actually wish that when I uploaded all of my client data, I wish HomeIQ would have sent out the first report telling everybody that their house was worth $1. because then I would have got 800 or 900 response emails and phone calls being like, hey, Scott, I think there's something wrong with your system. It says my house is worth $1. I live in Los Feliz, California. My house is worth $1.5 million. Oh, Betty, yeah, sorry about that, man. We had an upload error. Guess what? Next week, starting next week or next month, every month you're going to get this awesome report that goes out that shows what your house is worth, right? I had this argument almost to the point of losing the relationship with a large team manager at a real estate office where he's like, yeah, Scott, I don't really like those things because sometimes the value goes out incorrectly and then the client calls me. And I was like, did you? I'm like, did you just complain about a past client who I know damn well you're not picking up the phone and calling and staying in touch with, or doing an annual property review, or telling them what's going on with their neighborhood, or inviting them to the local block party that you have every year? You just put it up on Instagram. Are you telling me you're mad that a past client called you to talk about the value of your property? Are you fucking high? Excuse my language. I was so incensed. I was like, this is what's wrong with realtors. This is why clients don't think you're worth your 3%. And there's this huge lawsuit going on with NAR to try to take your commission away because you're not even doing the basics of staying in touch with past clients. And by the way, this realtor's name is Kirk. Kirk, I was the same way until about 3 years ago when I invested in HomeIQ. I sucked at it as well. So I'm talking to you as like a brother in arms here of how bad I was at staying in touch. So my point is that this epic cuss-filled rant, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen.
That was great.
My point is don't get the heebie-jeebies. Don't get analysis paralysis because something in here might be wrong. Because guess what? There are things in here that are going to be wrong. Like, I get frustrated when I come in here. Ann Taylor Moorfield is my assistant. She put her house in here. There's this little red exclamation point. The refinance fees are not calculated. Now, I could go in and learn how to fix that because little red dots, little red notifications on my phone drive me nuts. But the reality is I know Ann's not in the market to refinance. This is actually the house that she lives in that she currently rents because she wants to keep an eye on it to see if she could ever do a for sale by owner. So I don't need to know her refinance data right now. But the point is that when you come in here, I would always come to HomeIQ, double click. You have to do it twice, pre-mover score. And as part of your Monday calls, right? Or as part of your Friday calls, just go through here and see who has a high pre-mover score. And that's who you need to be staying in touch with, right? Now, you'll notice for me, I have a lot of duplicate accounts, and there's a reason for that based on the fact that I'm the coach and I have a separate training environment that I can log into. But anyway, yours will not have a bunch of these duplicate accounts. And if they do, you can just deactivate one of the two or archive them or whatnot. But I mean, look at the opportunities here. And I will tell you, having run a coaching program for almost a decade, one of the number one excuses that I hear is like, oh, Scott, I don't know who to call. I don't know what to say. How am I going to call them every week or once a month? I'm being annoying. How do I stay in touch? It's like, okay, well, pay for this product or continue paying for this product. Come in here, right? Go to Anthony Del Mercado, give him a call, check him out, talk about his property, right? See what's going on. And then go to your CRM or your Google spreadsheet or your Post-it notes or however it is you manage your data and look up who the original agent was with Anthony Del Mercado, and then call that individual. And by the way, Anthony, I use this one specifically. Anthony Del Mercado unsubscribed from the report himself. Doesn't mean he unsubscribed from me calling him. Doesn't mean he unsubscribed from me texting him with an update. Doesn't mean he unsubscribed from me downloading the report, right? I can download the report. I can turn this into a PDF and I can send it to the realtor. So yeah, okay, maybe he one day was like on a tear and any email he didn't recognize, he was just unsubscribing. Doesn't mean I can't print this out and mail it to him, right? He didn't unsubscribe to that. And so what I would say is like, there is so much opportunity in here where if you've been in this business for a couple of years and you have, now I'm lucky, I've got 1,000 past clients that I've closed over the last 10 years. That's when I kind of started getting serious about tracking my data, which was in 2014. Maybe you've only been in the business a few years. But if you've only been in the business a few years, this tool is even more relevant because you need to be tracking property values to see when there's a refinance opportunity, right? And speaking of refinance opportunities, guess what HomeIQ does for you? All the way here at the top, refinance opportunities. Now, I will tell you, I have put in a ticket to ask them for a way to archive these or maybe make them disappear for 90 days because they will kind of stay up here forever. But here's a list. We go all the way back to this guy who took title of this property in the name of his business, Hospitality LLC. You know, this shows that there's a refinance opportunity there because here's where kind of the, you know, prevailing 30-year fixed rates are right now. I know for a fact for this guy, Varsovia, we had to do a DSCR loan when we did these property purchases a year and a half, 2 years ago. I know his rate's at 8%, right? I'm keeping in touch with him to do a refinance here on 4 different properties within the next probably 6 months, right? We're really keeping an eye on that. This Jessica gal, she's on my radar. We have a standing calendar reminder, thanks to HomeIQ, that we're checking in every 90 days to see if we can get a rate with like a 6.5 in front of it. Might not happen for a while, but that's okay. Here's the other house that guy Varsovia owns. So all of these are opportunities, right? So if I walked in this week and I was like, you know what? I'm not cold calling or warm calling or friendly calling a single realtor. All right, cool. I've got 25 refinance opportunities here. Probably aren't available today since we just got slaughtered. We're filming this April 11th of 2024. We just got slaughtered the last 3 days in the bond market. Rates are back up well into the 7s. So, okay, not available now, but guess what? I need to stay in touch with them. I need to make sure that some less scrupulous lender doesn't trick them into refinancing with 2 points for a rate that's probably going to be free within, I don't know, the next 6 to 12 months, right? So I need to be keeping in touch and notifying the client about that. Then I need to be coming over here to the pre-mover score at least once a week, right? If you're the type of person that likes to batch your activities, maybe you just do a whole day where like the 3rd Thursday of the month, you do nothing else except for, you know, mover Monday or mover Thursday or whatnot. You come in here and just look at, there's dozens and dozens of people that are based on their equity position, based on where they are in, you know, time in ownership. We would call it time in service back when I was in the military. This is basically just taking all their time in service analytics and they're letting us know that these are the people that we need to stay in touch with, right? And then you just go over here to your handy dandy little connection tracker that you're going to call from. You fill out all these people's names. You look up in your CRM who their corresponding realtor is. Like if I was really, really motivated this week, I could probably make 200 calls just based on past clients plus their realtors and then AFR, right? AFR, yes or no in the chat box. Yes or no in the chat box. If I call, I think, if I remember correctly, I think this client, Mary Loomis, belonged to Heather Orozco, a realtor that I kind of fringe work with. Do you think in the chat box, yes or no? I call Mary, I talk with her, and she says, yeah, man, we got a ton of equity in this house. We're thinking about maybe getting out of the state of California. Like taxes are high, homelessness is crazy. This is the client telling me this, right? We think we might sell in the next year or so. Hey, I totally get it. Keep in touch. By the way, I work for a mortgage bank where I can do a loan in any state. So I'm here to help you, whether you move to Texas, Ohio, New York, whatever. I'm probably not going to leave LA for New York, but you get the gist. And then I call Heather Orozco and I'm like, Heather, it's Scott. Did I catch you at a bad time? She's going to be like, no, Scott Groves, what's going on, man? Long time no talk. I'm going to say, Heather, crazy story, man. I was doing some past client follow-up. And do you remember Mary Loomis? You referred me a long time ago. She lives out on Canyon Drive. Oh, yeah, she was great, blah, 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 blah. Well, funny story, man. I don't know if you get the HomeIQ reports that I send you, but I talked to Mary because I saw that she was kind of poking around the system and asking some questions about equity and values and is now a good time to sell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I talked to her. Turns out she's got 2 little kids. She's not super happy about living in like the trendy area of LA, like walking to coffee shops aren't so exciting to do with your little kids now that you know that area, Heather, the homelessness problem's gotten a little out of control. I know you actually moved all the way out to Palm Springs because you were sick of it as well. But she's thinking about selling in the next year. And I think that place is going to sell for $1.5 million. So whatever you got to do, put it on your calendar. I'll help keep in touch with her for you. But I would check in with her maybe every 30 to 60 days because that's a, it's a $45,000 commission for you. All right. So here's my question to you all. If I lead with that conversation, do you think that it's going to be easier for me to say, Heather, do you have anybody else looking to buy a house with you who needs to get motivated by getting pre-approved with me? All of a sudden, we going full circle. We talked about being in the friend zone. How much easier, give me a percentage. There's 33 of you on. Give me a percentage. How much easier as a percent is it for you to lean in for the business kiss and ask for the referral if you just delivered value that might lead to a $45,000 commission? Like if you're calling a realtor with real status updates, with real client information, with real, like you could put $40,000 in your pocket, or just scale this for whatever community you live in. If the average listing in your house is $300,000, okay, cool. Then a $9,000 commission looks pretty good too. But if you just called a client or you called a realtor and you gave them an update that might lead to them putting a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 commission in their pocket, how much easier is it for you to say, hey, Heather, I'm glad I was able to deliver the update. Shame on me. We haven't kept in touch as much. By the way, do you have any other buyers who need to get motivated about buying a house with you by getting pre-approved with me? I'd love to know what percent. 99% easier. Thank you to the one who actually answered the question the way that I asked. Chris, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, like I don't know, 50% easier, 60% easier. Luke said 100% easier. This is the way, right? The Mandalorian, this is the way. Calling and being like, so, hey, Heather, I want to tell you about the 2-1 buy down. The 2-1 buy down is an awesome opportunity to get your sellers to sell the house without dropping the price. And I pick up my phone on Friday nights and I work really hard and I'm going to send you some little tchotchkes and some little koozie cup warmers, and I'll take you to lunch and I'll kiss up to you and I'll call you every Monday along with the 700 other loan officers that are calling you every Monday. She doesn't care. None of that matters. If I call her and say, hey, I pay for the system called HomeIQ, Mary Loomis is going to sell within the next year. Keep in touch with her. That will be $45,000 in your pocket. By the way, you got anybody else I should talk to? Who's going to win? You guys go ahead, take her out to lunch every day. I don't care. I'm going to win because I'm the one that's actually putting deal flow and money in her pocket, right? And so that's my rant. I could go on and on and on about all the tools in HomeIQ. Like I am embarrassed as an investor and as a super user in this system. I'm embarrassed that I don't go in and use this agent tabs enough to see what other agent am I connected with, who am I colleagues with, meaning who have I closed deals with in the past, who's closed, $3 million worth of deals this year, Mark Diffie, and I've got none of them. What's going on, Mark? Got to give him a call, right? Got to stay in touch. So there's just an endless number of tools. And maybe when they push all the new software updates and all of you have the agent portal available, we'll come back on and do another training on this in a couple months. But I think, man, just using HomeIQ as a talking point, just using the pre-mover score to stay in touch with your clients, just staying in touch with the realtors because you called your clients about the pre-mover score. Like I'm trying to get HomeIQ to raise the price. I'm an investor in this thing. I would pay twice as much for this if I'm actually using it, which I am, right? And so we're going to make sure that you have all the details here to download the connection tracker. I will put a link to get on the calendar with me. Like I'm here to invest in anybody who's investing in HomeIQ. So if you want to either get into the coaching program we offer, or you just want to like sneak a free half-hour coaching session with me and pick my brain, like I can't help but help people. That's what I do, even if you're not going to give me any money. But if you want to talk a little bit about HomeIQ, if you want to talk about some improvements, if you want to talk about something specific to you doing things in HomeIQ, if you want to talk about like, I don't know, you just can't get your ass out of bed in the morning because the market's been kicking you in the teeth for 2 years, I'm happy to talk about that as well. And I wanted to leave a few minutes for question and answer. Mitch, Todd, or any feedback that you all have. Sometimes I can really go on a roll and talk too long.
No, I love it.
You're muted, Todd. I always love when somebody's talking and it takes them a while to realize they're muted. Todd, you were muted that whole time, but we still love your commentary.
Oh, I wanted to show you something real quick because you just touched on it. You said about the agents getting phone calls and how many phone calls, right? So I had this conversation with this dude the other day, and he was like a dork, and I like wanted to slap his face like the entire time I was on a demo. And I go, "Hey, so are you familiar with MMI?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got it." And I go, "So you have 1 year of realtor data?" And I go, "So how are you using it?" And he goes, "I look up agents, see if they're producing." And I go, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "And what do? You call them?" So you're calling agents that are producing in a tough market, right? Because you want part of their business. And I go, he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "How's that working out for you? Are those agents all willing to work with you, or are you just getting the runaround?" He goes, "I don't know." I go, "Okay. Well, Mike, would you benefit from 5 years of realtor data and possibly 6? If you had 6 years of transactional data on any realtor in your market, would that be a benefit to you?" "No, I don't need that much." And I go, "Okay, you don't. Okay, got it." I go, "Well, here's the following scenario. You and 1,000 other people are calling that realtor, that successful realtor, to try to get a piece of their business, right? They already have pre-existing relationships. So them using you and the things that you're saying about your great rates and closing sub 30 and whatever other nonsense that you've been saying for years is probably just going into a deaf ear." I go, "But now how many realtors in your market that are struggling right now are not being called?" And I go, "What if you had the ability to look back in time? What if you could go back to 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago and see that they were producing and see the fact that those agents have actually lost some listings?" So you can look up any realtor, see how much business that they've lost in the last 5 years, and our predictive analytics running on the rest of their clients. And now you call that realtor who is drowning right now. And the life jacket they're about to throw them is, "Hey, the following. I have a system that doesn't cost you any money, and it's built to help you increase your listing pipeline. You've lost some deals in the past 5 years. So we have to take a look at your marketing and make sure that we make some changes. Could be your open rate, could be the content, but you have 20 people in your past client list right now that are statistically likely to sell. And I'd love the opportunity to work with you. I'm going to create your account right now. I want you to take a look at these people and I want you to reach out to these individuals. And if I could help you generate a listing this year, that's me as your partner." Now, if you had that conversation with a struggling realtor, would they be more likely to work with you? Would they be more likely to accept their invitation? Would that be a loyal individual? And if the loyalty of realtors comes in question a lot, can you create loyalty by handing an agent an opportunity to make money in an environment right now where they are literally underwater? And that feature and that intelligence thing is going to open the doors for you guys. Seeing what your agents are doing, cool. You can see that they're giving out more business to somebody else. Okay, well, now you can resurrect that. But the fact that loss is on the table and no realtor's ever going to truly go through all of their transactions and see what they've lost. So inside your account, when you can go to your colleagues section and be able to say like, "Hey, you've done, X amount of deals with this realtor. So they've closed 21 to your one that you've done." You can see like, hey, who else they're giving business to, but being able to come into the lost listings category and say like, "Hey, this agent has lost $117,000 in missed commission in the last 5 years. They have 257,000 in potential opportunities." Now, when you invite an agent, and here's where it gets interesting for you guys. When you invite this realtor and they activate their account, we've assembled their entire database for you. So if they don't keep proper records, if that agent is disorganized beyond belief and all of their databases on post-its on their desk, like here's all of your past clients, here's your buyer transactions, here's what you've lost, here's your pre-mover score, name off the deed, address, purchase date, purchase price, loan information, home value, pre-mover score, ready to go. All they have to do is put in the email address. Now you're connecting that realtor to their past clients and you are co-branded to every single thing that is going out from this realtor's account. So every single realtor that you work with, get them into the system, connect with them.
Hey,
I have a question.
Todd, real quick, can you just leave it here, Todd? And I want to really drill home to the 27 people that are left on the call why this is so important. And I Googled this because I want to make sure I got this right. Loss aversion is an important concept associated with prospects theory and encapsulating the expression losses loom larger than gains. It's thought that the pain of losing is about psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. This came from a landmark study in the 1970s. If you're calling trying to sell yourself on what you're going to do better versus the person that calls the realtor and hits on this is what you lost, you're twice as likely to succeed if you let the realtor know what they're losing versus what you can do for them on what they're gaining, right? And trust me, all of you have had this experience where you put some clothes on that were in the laundry, you reach in the pockets and there's like $10 in there that you forgot to like clean out, you know, and you would have lost it, right? It could have got lost in the laundry. And you find that $10 and you're like, cool, $10. But if you're walking to the beer stand at a baseball game and you forgot your credit card, but you think you got $10 in your pocket and you reach in and the $10 is gone, the loss of $10 is exponentially worse than the feeling, the psychological feeling of gaining $10 when you find it in the laundry, right? They did a whole Seinfeld episode about this. And so you have to understand when you do, like Todd just kind of glossed over it because he does this every day. But when you can call and talk to your realtor partners about loss aversion versus I'm gonna be the most amazing realtor ever or a loan officer ever, and I'm gonna pick up the phone at midnight if you call me. It's like, okay, well, that's good, I guess, if that's the kind of life you want to lead, but it's not as powerful as tapping into their psychological fear of loss. And so I just want to make sure we didn't gloss over that because Todd just gave you some absolute gold on how to prospect with this idea of what they're losing versus what you can help them gain.
Scott.
Yeah, no, it's true. The fear of loss and opportunity of gain, right? That's the easiest way to connect to a realtor. But what realtor is going to be a sucker and be like, I want to see how much I've lost. And I'm going to go through all my transactions. I'm going to look them up, each address. I want to see if the transaction date's different. Like nobody's going to do that. And if you did that, you would want to kill yourself because you're going to be so pissed at the end of the day. I go, showing them that is not a matter of like, it is like a slap in the face. And let's be honest, like you sit down with a realtor, be like, oh yeah, like, hey, look what's happened. Like this is a problem. It's a fixable problem, but it's happened. And let's talk about the future. Like this can't be fixed. But this is going to continue to happen. If 1 out of every 7 people that you put into a house lists with somebody else, that is a problem. And if you have 21 people in your past client list right now, that's a guaranteed 3 more listings lost at an average of $15,000 per commission. You're gambling with $45,000 right now. This is a fixable thing, but these people, either A, you call them, or B, put in their email address and this report's going to go out and it will track their activity, but they need to hear from you because your marketing is clearly not reaching your past clients. So whatever you think that you're sending, happy holidays and I appreciate referrals and all of those things that are all filler that are going unnoticed have put a massive gap in between you and your past clients. And this will continue to happen. You can fix this right now and let's fix this together. And that's why I want you to have this. It's going to make those conversations extremely easy. But if you are in a position to want to grow your realtors, and I just like, and all these people going after successful realtors right now, and I go, and I get that. I get the mindset. You're like, this agent's producing, so clearly their marketing is good. And I go, yeah, but how many realtors are relying on the free technology from their brokerage? And that technology was cost-centric. It wasn't functionality-centric. And the average realtor uses around 7% of the technology that they're issued. They don't have a true understanding of marketing. They don't have formal education in marketing. And you're relying on that realtor to feed you business. You're like, I have 20 agent partners. And I go, okay. And are you controlling any of their marketing? No. I go, okay. So you're allowing agents and you know damn well what they're sending out. And you're like allowing cookie recipes to dictate your income. That's fantastic. That is the worst business model on the planet to me, to rely on a realtor to feed you business, fully knowing that they send out trash every single month and they miss out on tons of opportunities. So if you see 5 lost deals, 5 lost referrals, that agent it's a 1-to-1 scenario. That agent is costing you every time that you see a lost deal with one of your realtor partners. Just know that agent physically cost you money and that should piss you off. It should.
Hey, Todd, quick question. How many agents are they allowed to have and added into the system?
Unlimited.
And how much does it cost the agents to be part of the system?
Zero.
$0.
$0, people. That's what we're saying. You can have 20, 30, 40 real estate partners in here and it costs them $0. So if you're going to offer them this exciting information and get them involved and become your partner, and you say it's not going to cost you anything, well, they have nothing to lose by joining in. So that's
Scott, our pricing changes on Tuesday too. You said it. The pricing is going to go up because of the intelligence data. Yeah. So we're going to have it's going to be a contract option at like $185 a month or month to month at $250. And then on the 250 option, you can pay 2 months, like 250, and then pay the remaining 10 months at 1,500. So it'd be like 2,000 a year if you do 1,800 for the year under a contract. So yeah, the cost of data, it is what it is. It's just, we're going to keep adding to this thing. We're not going to change our pricing moving forward. I think it's just going to be, we'll lock it in there for a solid amount of time. And then we have some, a bunch of new features that are going to be coming. We have our home shopper pixel. That'll be a good time. That'll alert you guys when your homeowners walk into an active listing or an open house. So I think there's what are those companies that do the like credit pull that notify you? And I go, if you're being notified when a client's done a credit pull and they're actually at that point, they're already talking to like another, like you have to literally blame, you got to look at your marketing, you got to look at your relationship, because that things might be toast. Getting into it beforehand, right? Because you have the predictive analytics. If you're going to go strictly off of that, but let's say you have the activity, well, you can go off of views and see what a client is looking at and how often that they're looking at it. So you can use the activity to say like, hey, this person's really paying attention to something. Let's see what they're looking at, right? You can use the view aspect of it to have conversations as well. But if you have a client who's like looked at it one time and they're at a 41% for whatever reason, because our predictive analytics are only 72% accurate, but that client on a Saturday walked into 3 active listings and you get those notifications, that's a fantastic day. That's a good day. Let's check in. Let's see how you're going. Like, it's just because they're not far down the rabbit hole yet.
Todd, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just got to jump because I got a call right here at 9 o'clock my time. I did put my link tree in the chat box for anybody that wants to keep in touch, follow. We're going to do another training along these same lines once we dig into all those analytics Todd was talking about, because I'm kind of addicted to the stuff that HomeIQ is building out. I just wanted to push it faster. So there's cool things coming. I also put my Calendly link, which will be in the replay for here. We're going to get this edited and sent out to everybody. So whether you were here live, thank you, or you're watching the replay, thank you. If you've got more questions about why you should be on the platform, Todd's going to stay on for a few more minutes because he knows more about the platform than any human on planet Earth. But thanks, Mitch and Todd, for having me on and letting me coach, man.
Yeah,
how dare you come out here and provide value, Scott?
I know, I'm an ass. But love you guys.
You guys,
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.